Hey guys, my name is Evan and welcome to Country View Acres. So today I'm back out here in the workshop area, and the plan is to try to cover up the wall here that is separating the workshop from the garage area. And then once that's covered up, hopefully we can start being able to hold a little bit of heat in this room, and it'll be warmer and more pleasant to work in here. That's what we're shooting for. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can cover up this wall over here. I could put up some barn metal, I could put up some drywall, I could put up some plywood. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but I want it to look somewhat unique. I want it to have its own workshop look. I want it to be a little bit rustic and somewhat more fitting of what a woodworking shop should look like. So I've kind of come up with an idea what to do. But it's going to be a little bit time consuming and tedious to do this. It's going to be like a labor of love to try to get this in the condition that I want it to look. But I think when we're all done with this and this wall is covered up, it's going to end up looking pretty cool. So we're going to do the same thing that we did when we put in the wood burning stove. We're going to use this old corrugated barn metal, and this is going to be the bottom part of our wall. It's got a nice rustic look to it. So that's going to be our bottom 4 feet, and that's why we ended up putting the blocking here at that height, because it doesn't reach between 2 studs. So this is always going to give us something to attach that to as we go down the wall putting that on. So this is probably the quickest part of doing the wall, is these right here. We just got to get them all cut out to 4-foot lengths. So this here is a little jig that we made up so that we could cut barn metal. So we added this piece right here so that we have the width of these smaller corrugated pieces. But if you take this piece out, then from here to here it fits the bigger, newer pieces of barn metal. And this works out fairly well for us. We're just using a metal cutting blade. This is like a carbide toothed blade made for cutting metal. And what this does is you're sawing this keeps this up against this board, and it doesn't twist on you as you're cutting it. You got a nice fence on this side that's built in to keep your saw up against, and it throws a lot of sparks, but it ends up having a nice cut, straight cut piece of metal when you're done, and it's fairly quick to use. So last night I got enough of the corrugated metal cut to cover the bottom part of the wall. So now I want to work on the upper part of the wall. This is going to be the time-consuming part. What I have here is this is T111 plywood siding. This is a fairly common product. It's basically plywood that they have put grooves in it, and this looks like 8-inch boards in the face of the plywood. And what I want to do to make this look unique is we're gonna sand this, and we're gonna stain it so that it looks like it's a dark colored wood. Now the sanding is gonna smooth a lot of it out, but there's a lot of saw cuts in here. Those saw cuts are still gonna show up, and it's gonna look like a rough sawn dark wood is what it's gonna look like. So let's go ahead and get started. This is gonna take several hours to get this done. So this siding has some saw cuts in it from manufacturing, and I'll light that up a little bit so you can see the shadows. So those saw cuts in there, everything will sand out but those saw cuts, and they'll take the stain a little bit darker. It's going to give it a nice rustic look when we're finished with this. So what I'm going to be using is just a belt sander, and we're just going to take probably 2 or 3 passes over each area just to knock off like the fuzz and make everything nice and smooth and still leave the saw marks behind. But this is going to take a long time to do all these sheets of plywood. So I'm using a oil stain. This is Minwax Early American. It's the same stain that I used in the house to stain some of the doors and to stain the half bathroom. It's a fairly dark stain. Some people may not like this because it's going to be fairly dark. But I'm just going to brush it on, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a rag. And the hardest part of this is going to be getting in these grooves and getting everything stained in there. Those grooves they got little micro grooves, and that ends up being a pain to get stained. I will also kind of stain the ends of the boards just in case they happen to show a little bit, that at least they're dark on the ends as well. Yeah, the grooves, you're probably not going to get all the stain wiped out of the grooves, but that's okay if they look a little bit darker. But doesn't that look good? I think that looks way better than the blonde colored wood. I think this is going to look pretty cool when it's done. And we're not going to polyurethane this. I'm actually going to leave it just stained so it has a nice flat finish. It's a little bit dull, and I think that'll make it even look a little more antique. So I did leave this stain in the house so that it stayed warm. If this stain was out here, it would have been about freezing in here last night, and it would not apply very well. So I'm just going to do this in little pieces at a time, and it's going to take a long time to do all 10 sheets that I have sanded. So this is the painstakingly long process right here. So I'll spare you all of this, and we'll fast forward to where we're actually done with this and ready to put it on the wall. So that ended up taking me just over 30 minutes a sheet to get these stained, and we had a total of 10 sheets. So that was going to take me about 5.5 hours to get all these stained. Luckily, Rebecca, she came out here and we divided and conquered. I had 2 cans of stain. One was an old one and one was a new one. They were slightly different color just because of the age, I guess. So this was the older stain. You can tell it's a little bit darker. And then this was the newer can of stain. So they still match fairly well, but you can tell the difference between the 2 cans. I think this ended up turning out great. I don't know if it'll show up in the camera well, but you can still see all the saw marks here on the face of these boards, and I think it makes them look pretty cool. So I actually want to get these hung first. So what I want to do is I want to do a couple more things to the wall, and then we're going to go ahead and start hanging these up. So we're going to end up cutting these to fit from the backside. That's going to cause it to have less splinters and less tear out and ruin the stain that we just did. So I need to go ahead and cut an outlet in this one, and then I think it's ready to go up. So here on the side of the plywood that overlaps, there has to be a nail in the surface. So I'm just going to hand nail that nail. The rest of them I'm going to put in with the nail gun. All right, I got the first 2 sheets up, and so far it's looking really good. But when I was nailing it there at the top, I started to wonder if maybe I should add some blocking like we did over here, because we're going to have 2 sheets of plywood that's actually going to butt together right there. And if I put blocking across that where they meet, I'll be able to nail it more often than every 16 inches, and that'll ensure that I don't have any one of the pieces of plywood warp out or bend out and not match up anymore. So I just think if I put some blocking in there, I can put a lot more nails where they meet, and it'll just make sure that they stay nice and flush together. I forgot to turn the air compressor back on. The loudest air compressor on the face of the earth. So I got 5 sheets put up so far, and I think it's turning out pretty good. So these saw marks, I don't know how well they're going to show up on camera, but these little saw marks that are going across this definitely make this look different. I think it looks pretty cool. I really, when this is done and over with, I just want it to have its own look. You know, I really don't want it to feel like plywood when it's done. And I think this is going to achieve that. I think it'll look pretty cool. I don't think you're going to have that plywood feel when it's done and over with. So as I've been putting this on the wall, I've been putting a 2x4 across where we had the chalk line. And that's helping me. I used to do it when I did drywall. I'd put it on the wall that way when I was working by myself. So this is really handy when you're working alone, but it's also making sure that I put it on there straight, because there is an overlap on the side. There's about a 3/8 of an inch overlap. So this board is also helping make sure that I have this perfectly parallel with the one next to it, and that it overlaps perfectly, and that we're gonna be perfectly the same at the top and the bottom. So I think that this is definitely I guess probably a must. I think this is really, really helpful, and yeah, I'm really happy with the way that the way it's looking so far. So it's actually getting kind of late. It's after 7 o'clock this evening, and I actually have to go back to work tomorrow. This is my last day on the weekend off, and didn't get quite as much done. Well, I did get a lot done. I don't have a lot to show for it, I guess, right? So I was really hoping maybe it could get a little bit farther than this, but like I said, it's time consuming. It's tedious work trying to get this all sanded and stained, just trying to get everything prepped, just to be able to put this stuff on the wall. So a lot of time doing that. So hopefully, we got everything all prepped now, so it's just all about getting it on the wall, and hopefully we'll get that done next weekend. Where the galvanized metal, the corrugated metal, and the wood siding meet, we're going to put a wood trim board over that and cover that up where they meet, and I think that's going to dress it out pretty good. So but I think that's going to be it for today. I don't think I'm going to stay out here any longer tonight. I'm going to go in and take at least a few minutes and relax before I got to go to bed tonight. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.